All right, we are back. Built by Becker podcast right here in Naples, Florida. I am Blake Becker, your host, owner of Becker Custom Builders. Man, I'm excited today. I have not only an amazing businessman, but a good friend joining us today. And I'm not going to butcher it up. I'm going to let him do all the explanation of who he is and what he does. But thank you for coming, Mr. Blake Day.
Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. So tell us about yourself. I mean, your company is Day Adjusting and Consulting, but give us a little bit more about who you are and what that is, and what our listeners can kind of get from what you do.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit about me. I've been in the insurance industry for, 15 or 16 years now. So 2009 through, let's say about 18, worked for insurance companies as an insurance adjuster. So State Farm, Allstate, all the big ones. You know, if you had a pipe burst or a hailstorm anywhere in the United States or even Canada, I would put on an Allstate shirt because I was an independent adjuster. I worked for a big staffing company. They would send me out. We would take a look at your damages. I would write an estimate, and I was the guy that would show up as the adjuster.
So you literally had the different shirts from the different companies?
Oh, yeah. I had a USAA shirt, MetLife, and all of them.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
Depending on the month would be who I worked for at the time. So did that for a decade, working for the carrier side. Then I switched to the public adjusting side for the people.
That's
and
right.
Now we represent policyholders. So I started that company on my own back 2018, going into 2019. Grew it now. I've got an entire staff. We probably got 20 or so employees now. I want to say we're 15 to 17 states. I've lost track. We do everything from wildfire, hurricane.
Will you be
hail,
going out to
tornado.
California?
That's the one state we're not licensed in. It takes about 3 months to go through the licensing process, the testing, everything you have to do.
Okay.
Obviously, looking at all these fires, we're like, well, we could have really helped.
Yeah.
Our thing is we stay so busy right now in all the states we're in, between Louisiana, Florida, all of the Midwest, East Coast. It's been nonstop storm season really here for the past year.
It really has.
So once we have more manpower and I can actually commit guys to going out there and then have some local adjusters, it's definitely a market we want to tackle, but there's catastrophes all over the country right now. So it keeps us busy. And not only on the catastrophe side, but we do things, a sprinkler system goes off in a high rise and floods a bunch of condos, a kitchen fire, a drunk driver runs into your home. Those kind of things keep us busy. And then all these natural catastrophes just add to it and keeps probably busier than we want to be.
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad problem.
No, not a bad problem at all.
Not a bad problem. Really not. Tell us a little bit about your family. I know you're tight with your dad, but give us a little insight on Mr. Day.
Oh, Timmy. Yeah, so father was in insurance industry probably 6 or 7 years before I was. I was in college for construction management, trying to figure out which way I wanted my life to go. My dad was in insurance, and this was right around the time of the big recession, 2009, 10, 11. Not a lot of construction to manage, which is what I was going to college for. So I was like, I'll try this insurance thing out, for a year or two and save up some money and go from there. And here I still am today.
Yeah.
So father got in the industry and taught me a lot of what I know. He and I worked for the same big firm for a long time. And then when I decided to go out on my own and now go against these insurance companies because I had all the insider knowledge, I started by myself, and then once we had enough work coming in, I brought on a few employees, and then he said, oh, wow, this thing's really taken off. I love to join the team, and he moved over, and he handles a lot of our commercial work. He busts his ass out there, loves what he does, so he and I get to work together. So my parents are snowbirds. They spend part of the year down here. My mom works with him, and they have a ton of fun working together. I got a brother up in Tennessee. So
Is that why you spend a lot of time up in Tennessee?
So I've got a lake house up there. So my parents have a houseboat. I've got a lake house, and that's like our summer getaway. I've got I call it my lake family. It's everybody that I kind of grew up with, their parents, grandparents, everybody. And we all go up there in the summertime, do big 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day, big dock parties and stuff. And everybody at our marina. It's like a big family. I've known those people for 20 years now.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Nice. Let's touch on that lake entertainment and fun. You're quite the wakeboarder.
I'm always out. Yeah, I do a lot of. I'm getting older now. Not older, but you get a little sore going out and crashing, doing something fast. And now I've moved to just the wake surfing.
Okay.
You're going 9 or 10 mile an hour. It's nice and slow. When you fall, you really just sink.
Okay.
There's not a hard crash involved. So yeah, surfing as much as I can. And if it's too windy or too cold to be out surfing, then I'll go out and fish or something. Anything that's on the water.
I saw you had a pole in the water yesterday.
It was a little chilly, yeah.
Yeah.
I went out and did some bass fishing at sunset. I got home early from work. But yeah, any chance I can be to be in the water, whether it's saltwater, freshwater, whatever I'm doing, sure beats a good day at work.
All right. Love that. Love that. Any other fun things that we don't know about, Mr. Day, that you would like to share other than wakeboarding and fishing? Any other activities that you like to partake in?
Anything athletic. I mean, whether it's going to the gym, pickleball, golf.
Pickleball.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of pickleball.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're playing. You got a bunch of people playing.
Yeah, I moved into a neighborhood. Thank you, Patrick Dearborn. Shout out.
Yeah.
I sold my house. And they've got all these private pickleball courts. And all my old neighbors convinced me to start, give it a shot and play. And turns out it's pretty fun. I don't like the doubles, but the singles one-on-one, you
don't like doubles?
No.
I love doubles.
It's like playing ping pong. You don't move.
Yes, well... You do move a little bit, yeah.
Move your arms.
But singles definitely is a workout. You are moving.
Oh, it's like doing line sprint side to side. So, and now I've got a lot of people playing. I bought a bunch of extra paddles. So, I'll send out a text or put something on social media like, hey, who wants to play pickleball on Saturday? We'll have, I don't know, sometimes 8 people, sometimes as many as like 16 or so show up. And we'll get a bunch of courts going. It's a mix of people that know how to play, don't know how to play, and it's fun.
That's the beauty of pickleball. It's kind of fun for everybody.
You can, honestly, you play pickleball 3 or 4 times, you're really just as good as everybody else. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that are pro and take it super serious.
Yeah.
But if you're
there's like 50,000 that come to Naples for that same exact reason. But for us average Joes, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think you can get, within a couple months of playing, you can get pretty decent at playing pickleball, and it's a fun sport.
Yeah, it's just life-size ping pong is all it is.
Yeah.
And it's fun. You get a good way to get a workout in without realizing you're exercising.
How about any fun plans for 2025? Anything new? You traveling? You doing anything crazy? Buying any more houses? Or
I'm always traveling.
Yeah.
I've got whether it's Central America, South America, they're both so easy to get to flying out of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's a quicker flight to South and Central America from Miami than it is to go to Nashville. You can get down there in 2 hours, and Nashville's 2.5.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to do some traveling, as the year goes. Real estate, I'm always dabbling in something. I just finished big renovation on a property over in New Orleans. We had renters move in on January 1st. So, I'll probably pick up a few more properties. I used to flip them. Now I long-term hold.
Okay.
Because once you get enough rental properties going, especially, get them completely paid off, you only need 7 or 8 rental properties, you own in cash.
Yeah.
And at that point, life gets a lot easier,
That's
when you
right.
just got that mailbox money coming in. So that's the goal, is residual income where you're not trading your time for money.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, purpose of the episode is we want to discuss the importance of adjusting insurance. What happens when you have a claim? Because what do you do when this devastation happens? What do you do when you got a fire? What do you do when you got a flood? What do you do when a hurricane comes in? Mm-hmm. And what do you do when a contractor like myself comes in and says it's going to be $125,000 to repair, and your insurance company says we'll give you $60,000?
Yeah.
What do you do? And that's really the purpose of the show. Number one, to have you on and be our guest, but to do some thought-provoking question and answers, pick your brain a little bit, maybe share some knowledge of both of our industries that could be helpful for someone that's going through a claim, or going through something like this and didn't know there was I didn't know there was a service out here like yours until I was hired, by a company to do a repair. And in this whole process, kind of unrolled. And then I learned, about people like you. And it's nice that there are companies like yourself, and there's many others as well. But we have, a working relationship and multiple things to see people fight for the people. I think someone that goes in and really says, hey, look, this is a damaged roof, or, the kitchen is going to cost more than $18,000. Like, how do we get to a place where everybody's being taken care of? Homeowners getting their house back, contractors getting what's comfortable or agreeable on, and you guys get a little bit for helping out. I mean, that's the triangle that we want to try to have everybody happy inside of. So that's where we're going to kind of go with some of these questions. Anything right off the top of your head based off of that that you want to share, from your experiences?
I could go on for hours.
That's what we got. We're here. Let's go.
I'll let you go with the questions, and then I'll get into some different bullet points of insurance companies, the state of insurance company across the country. It's definitely been a hot topic, especially with the hurricanes we've had, the California wildfires. I can go on and on and on. But I'll answer some of your questions.
Well, one question that I didn't have on my paper that came up just from a conversation was the different shirts. Now, when you put on an Allstate shirt, and when you were a private or when you were an adjuster, an independent adjuster. Let me word these things correctly. It's not my normal industry. Do the rules change? Do the way that you inspect, is it different when you put on an Allstate shirt, when you put on a, Chubb shirt, when you put on a Pure shirt? Like, do they look at properties differently?
Completely different.
So you had to know all those things as an independent adjuster, or did they not give you that information? You just went in and took pictures and took measurements and kind of briefed them on.
Yeah, things have changed a lot, in the last 15, 16 years since I got into the industry. In the early days, what I call the early days for me, guys like my dad and a lot of his friends in their 50s and 60s, have been doing since
the dawn of time,
80s, 70s, things have changed a lot. The term independent adjuster is funny to me because there's almost no such thing anymore across the United States. Independent adjusters, the way they were intended is you go out and you independently judge the property. What needs to happen. And those guys, had construction knowledge, insurance knowledge. They go out and call balls and strikes, call it just like they see it. 10, 15 years ago, they had guidelines that the insurance companies would put out. And generally, it would be the order they want you to take your photos, and they would do some things for estimating consistency. If you're going to write your estimates, put them in this order so they're consistent, so the desk adjusters can review these and we can get them approved quick. That has morphed now into very strict guidelines that these independent adjusters have to follow. You would think in Florida, 2 neighboring homes, you would go out and the exact same. If the roofs need replaced, if the fire's damaged, and whatever it is, you estimate the same. Not anymore. These insurance companies have extremely strict guidelines, and some more than others. Chubb is typically a good insurance company. I can have a neighbor that has Chubb and a neighbor that has, call it State Farm, whoever you want to say, any big box insurance company. Chubb will probably have their claim paid in under 90 days fully. More than likely, they'll never, if they want to hire me to handle the process, they can, but more than likely, a Chubb person very rarely actually needs to hire us. The neighbor will probably get a third of the money of what Chubb will pay, and I'll be spending the next 3 to 9 months fighting with that insurance company to get it to the same settlement the next door neighbor had. So the claims are handled completely different. They're told to estimate for things. They're told to not estimate for other things.
But let's look at those too, because we are comparing apples to oranges, not apples to apples when it comes to possibly, and maybe I'm wrong, when you're looking at a State Farm policy or an Allstate policy compared to a Chubb policy, is Chubb more expensive on average?
And here's the thing, Pure and Chubb are both more expensive than probably everybody in Florida. I would tell everyone not to have a Pure policy.
Really?
Pure has went through major changes in the last couple of years. I have clients who are still in litigation from Hurricane Irma, still fighting Pure claims. Gotcha. I have a lot of people from Hurricane Ian still fighting Pure claims, where the next door neighbor might have had Chubb or they had AIG, other high-end insurance companies.
And they were paid quicker.
Paid very, very quick. Top dollar, handled. You get what you pay for, but not all the time in insurance. I think sometimes just because it's more expensive doesn't mean it's the coverage you need.
Yeah.
So, a Chubb policy really isn't wrote that much different from, an Allstate or a Nationwide or somebody else. Fairly similar.
But how they execute,
how they're enforced,
and how they're enforced is much different.
This is the key, and this is what frustrates me in all states around the country. You're sold a policy so you know what you have coverage for, but you're not told how your policy is enforced. Those are the guidelines that are given to these insurance adjusters. And every year, these insurance companies, revamp their guidelines that go out to all the adjusting firms. And my thought, or my idea is, why doesn't the consumer have these? You know what's in your policy because you get a policy.
Yeah.
You're not told how any of it's enforced. I think every insurance company should have to give those guidelines out just like they give their policies.
Right.
So you know how claims are paid. Because if you had that in your hand and you had 2 identical policies, it'd be a really clear
which
decision,
policy, which you're going to purchase.
You want. Oh, this is how you're going to enforce my policy. This is how strict you're going to be. This is how you're going to try to cut down my estimate.
Yeah.
But, I was in a deposition all day yesterday on a, almost $10 million commercial claim here in Florida. And it's funny because, we finish up the depo and I'm speaking with the attorneys. And the attorneys, are subpoenaing the insurance company, trying to get all the information. Insurance company always wants to call that work product. We're not gonna give you that. That's work product.
Yeah.
Because they don't want that information getting out.
Right.
Because as soon as it does, it could get circulated, and then people will see how their policy is going to be enforced, and they're going to say, "Why on earth do I even have this insurance company if we know they're going to fight us every step of the way?"
Yeah. Yeah. How is having the right insurance so crucial for homeowners and businesses in Southwest Florida?
Oh my gosh,
or anywhere. I mean, that could be a broadened topic.
Anywhere, but especially Florida. Here's what's very frustrating about Florida, and I could go on literally hours about this. So in states like Louisiana, you have what they call the standard fire policy. So it's like 150 something line items, and every policy has to be no more restrictive than the state approved insurance policy, which really means all your insurance policies are fairly similar.
Okay.
They're not going to exclude a bunch of things. It's going to be policyholder friendly. Not in Florida. Florida, you can have 3 or 4 policies of the same carrier with wildly different endorsements. And odds are the consumer has no idea what's in them. And sometimes the agent doesn't clearly explain what's in them. All they see is, oh, the premiums between these policies, these are cheaper. Oh, and I have, $2 million in coverage for my house. It looks great. But nobody reads the other 100 pages of their insurance policy.
I can personally attest to this exact situation because of my policy and the one that I was, sold on my new home. And so we're going through that process right now with your company, and I know it's going to be taken care of because you guys are professional and you're already doing great and executing on that. But there's a lot to these policies, and there's a lot of loopholes, and there's a lot of small print, and there's a lot of confusion behind these insurance policies.
Yeah, your policy is a good example. The policy is great, except for one endorsement that says 1% matching. Yeah, which means if you have kitchen cabinets, the small kitchen fire, and you can't get those kitchen cabinets anymore, and they're $50,000 for all the cabinets, whatever the number is. Well, you have an extremely limited amount of coverage you have. Your home might be insured for $1 million, $2 million, whatever the number is, but because you have that matching endorsement in there, you might only have, maybe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, whatever that number is of coverage. But you don't know that until you have a fire,
until you have a problem,
or until you have a bunch of damage to your roof. And now your roof won't match and they won't interlock, all the different problems you can have, or your lanai is outdated and they don't have parts for it. So the parts look janky, whatever it is.
Different,
People just assume, and there's also in South Florida, oh my gosh, we just had someone with $980,000. They've paid out of pocket on a water claim. They had some roof damage, house filled full of water, got back to the home, massive damage, kitchen, bathrooms, everything, there's water everywhere. They have an endorsement in their policy that says they only have, even though the home is insured for $5-10 million, it was a large policy down in Port Royal. Mm-hmm. But that policy only has coverage for $50,000 in interior water damage. Wow. Buried in the policy. So this lady calls and says, hey, my insurance company's only paid me $50,000. I'm like, all right, what's the exact number? Well, it was 50. And I'm like, paid you 50 exactly? And they won't pay anymore? I'm like, that's really strange. We dig into the policy. And I have to be the one to call her and tell her, your agent sold you a policy where you only have $50,000 of interior damage. And oh, by the way, your roof has an endorsement, an ACV endorsement. Because of the age of your roof, you really only have about 15 or 20% coverage for your roof. So you essentially, this policy only really covers you for theft and fire.
Wow.
There's really no other coverage in the policy. And then, of course, the broker calls me, very upset, because I guess they were friends. And the broker says, well, I can't believe you're throwing me under the bus. I'm like, I just told the client what's in the policy. I don't even have her signed up as a client. Technically, I'm just giving free advice.
Right.
And she's like, well, she needs to have this policy. I'm like, well, why? Well, what if a tornado comes and rips off the roof? Well, she only has 20% coverage for the roof. She's like, but what about the inside? And I'm like, she's only got $50,000 in coverage.
You're talking about a multi-million-dollar home.
Yeah. So I'm like,
no sense.
Essentially, you sold her a fire-only policy and theft policy. She might as well not have got any wind coverage or water kind of coverage at all. And this lady was paying $30,000 a year in premiums. That was her policy. Wow. $30,000 a year. And she's been paying it for the last 6 or 7 years. And she finally has a claim and gets paid $50,000 even. $900,000 she'd already spent out of pocket. There's nothing we can do. An attorney, nobody could help her.
No.
So these endorsements that they allow to be put in policies in Florida are so detrimental I'm writing an article right now for a local magazine, and it's like the top 5 red flags in your insurance policy. And we've been writing it the last couple of days, and it's talking about these different endorsements that are in policies that people have no idea about until you have to submit a claim.
What are the top 5 red flags?
Oh, glad you asked.
Are you going to wait till the magazine comes out?
I can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
Tune in for more.
That's right.
No, I'll give you a couple of them.
Yeah, please do. Share with our viewers and listeners.
Actually, I'll give you the number 1 that I had in there that you're going to start seeing in policies. They're already in some policies in Florida, but you're going to see them a lot in the next few years. So I did a story, shout out Corey Lazar, Wink News. I filmed with him on Monday for a story that he's putting out probably sometime next week. And it's going to be about how the insurance commissioner in the state of Florida is really pushing, some kind of a law or something to put in place that forces people with shingle roofs to either go to metal roofs. Basically, they won't try not to approve permits for shingle roofs. Everybody's got to go to metal.
So I just had Hannah Vogel from Vogel Roofing on the podcast when we discussed that exact topic, which was there's people pushing for no shingles on houses, which makes sense to those who can afford tile and metal roofs because it is a much more durable product. But there are the people who can't afford it or have the right to choose, their own product.
Yep.
And that is something that the insurance companies are going to be able to enforce for the re-roof or for new construction.
We're going to find out because all of this is going to go through the pipeline of politicians and get approved. It appears the insurance companies are really putting a lot of pressure and their lobbyists on politicians and the insurance commissioner to really push people to metal roofs. So here's what I explained to Wink News. Why would they do that? Well, your first thought is, well, the roofs are more durable. Okay, well, we very rarely have to get calls from people with shingle roofs after a storm or an event because the insurance company's like, $15,000 for a shingle roof compared to a tile or metal. Stroke the check and pay it. But the next door neighbor might have metal and a bunch of flying debris hit the roof, and that roof could be, $50,000, $40,000. Next door neighbor, and they pay it too. Now it takes a little longer, but they'll pay it. So first thing that came to mind is, well, why would the insurance company want you to have a more expensive roof that can still get damaged by flying debris from a hurricane? It's going to cost them way more money. Well, here's the reason. There's a thing in Florida, and it's in other states, that it used to only be on commercial policies, is where it started. It was called a cosmetic exclusion. And what that is, on a commercial roof, let's call it an Amazon warehouse, a big metal standing seam roof of some kind. Hailstorm comes through, leaves dents all over the roof. It doesn't affect the functionality of the roof. It's not leaking. It's just an eyesore. So they started putting these exclusions in commercial policies and said, hey, for a large warehouse, your premiums could be $30,000 a year. But if you go with this cosmetic exclusion, $18,000 a year. So it's got to be functional damage. So it was a way for the insurance companies not have to pay for these roofs unless a tornado or something hit and just peeled them off like a like a can or something, just rip the whole lid off. That's the only way they have to pay them. Well, what they're doing now is they're putting these in residential policies. So for an insurance company, there's no such thing as a cosmetic exclusion on a shingle roof. Because if something hits and there's a big scuff on the roof, it takes off the granules. Well, now it's showing the base underneath. It's a petroleum product. It could start to dry out, shrivel, and that could eventually, be a weak spot in the roof where it starts to leak. So there's no such thing as a cosmetic exclusion on a shingle roof or on a TPO roof or on a tile roof. But on metal, you can get away with a cosmetic exclusion. So I'm saying, I already know this is happening. Insurance companies are pushing for metal roofs. Not because they're trying to protect you and they want you to have more coverage, because it allows them then to sell policies with cosmetic exclusions.
Where's the motive behind the law, or where's the motive behind the bill? And it's always money, and it's always going up the chain, which is going to be the execs in these insurance companies and the politicians who are supporting or being supported by
Republicans, Democrats. It's all corrupt in states like Florida and California. All of them. If you look at lobbyist dollars in the state of Florida, for the first time in the last few years, the number one lobbyist amount of money coming out isn't the pharmaceutical industry anymore. With the aging population we have, it's the insurance industry, and specifically property insurance. So if I was an insurance company and I could say, I want everyone to have metal roofs, and then I could sell everyone a policy and bury in it a cosmetic exclusion, I never have to pay for another roof again unless it completely peels off. Now, in a hurricane situation, we're doing a lot of claims, whether it's St. Pete or Sarasota area. All of those roofs had flying debris hit them, branches, consistent winds. It could be a shopping cart from down the street, gets airborne. All kinds of stuff rolls across these roofs, and they just beat the heck out of these metal roofs. You look at it from the ground up, looks like somebody took a hammer, just gouged, just like a piece
yeah,
of foil. You crinkle up and then try to lay flat is what some of these roofs look like. Unless they're leaking under a cosmetic exclusion, the insurance company can look at it and say, oh, we're really sorry about your damages, but we're not going to cover it.
Yeah, but in Florida, you also have HOAs, and your HOA could say, we don't want your ugly roof, so you got to fix it. Yeah. So then the homeowner's stuck paying for their roof because they have this exclusion.
Yeah. The HOA could force the homeowner into paying for the roof because it looks ugly.
Yeah.
But then they have that exclusion and the insurance company gets out of it. So this whole thing of, we really want to have Floridians go. No, you don't.
No.
You want to find a way to not have to pay for roofs. And if everybody could go with metal and then you could do a cosmetic exclusion, then you never have to pay for another metal roof again for the rest of time.
That's right.
So that was my number one. I'll go quick through the others. I could go on for hours about each one of these. The next big one that really just sets me off is roof schedule endorsement. Here's what that is. So, you had a couple companies that pulled out of Florida in the last few years.
Yeah.
But, you have Jimmy Petronas, scumbag, who's, thumping his chest. He's running for Congress now saying, we brought so many new insurance companies into Florida. And that's what gets all the press. All these new companies are coming into Florida because of how we changed the laws. Okay, great. Loggerhead is the one I'll pick out right now. Loggerhead Insurance, new company that came in that started taking ASI Progressive spot. You got a Loggerhead policy. Coverages all look the same. It's even cheaper than what ASI Progressive. It looks like a great policy. Okay, well then Sarasota gets hit with a hurricane. 2 of them actually. We go up to Sarasota, we start representing homeowners, and every single Loggerhead policy has a roof schedule endorsement.
Which is?
One of the back pages. You open it up and it's a giant chart and it says, what kind of roof do you have and how old is it? Once the roof's more than 10 years old, the insurance company's keeping 50% of the money. It's basically depreciation they take that you don't get. So all of these people who for their entire lives have had these tile roofs, because tile roof can last 50 to 75 years. If
paid on their
correctly.
policies.
Yeah. Go to Italy, go to Europe. There's tile roofs that are hundreds of years old that don't leak. So if you have a good tile roof,
it can last a long time.
It can last a real long time. But they put these roof schedule endorsements in for these people with tile roofs. And some of the people that were right in the eye of the hurricane, where even though it was a great roof, a lot of problems, a lot of tile ripped off, sections of the roof missing. They found out the hard way that some of them were only getting paid 20 to 50 cents on the dollar of what they're owed.
Wow.
So they think they have this great deal, this great insurance policy. Then we have to be the ones to tell them on an $80,000 roof, after your deductible's applied, you're getting about 25, 30 grand at most.
Yeah.
And now this great policy they had just cost them $50,000+. And this is going on all over Tampa, all over Sarasota.
Now, in those policies that have those schedules, the agent is supposed to go over that with them, or doesn't have to? What is the terms on that?
So I asked a lot of these people what happened. They said they got an email. Hey, your insurance company's pulling out. But here's what's going on. We're going to send you this new policy. We need you to sign a couple things, and we'll have you this new policy that'll take effect as soon as the other one is done.
And
so
this is the price. It's even going to be less than your old one. Or touch.
And here's your coverages, and it shows all the coverages. And the people have no idea.
And the average person, like me, when I selected my insurance on my house, I don't know. I sent you, I think, the cover sheet, right? And you said, yeah, that's a great policy. And then we found out on page 6 or 12 or whatever it was that there's an exclusion, or there's a chart, or one of these schedules that affects the actual coverage of the home. And that stuff is not being explained to the homeowners.
Not at all. When I bought my new insurance policy, because I bought a new house early this year, was working with an agent, and I said, hey, here's the 3 insurance companies I think I want. Send me over the details. And each one of them, they sent me over the deck page, the first 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah.
I said, no. I want all of the pages for each policy. She's like, well, I don't know if I can give you that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to sign a contract, which is when you buy a policy, you've got a contract with the insurance company. Here's what they cover, here's what they won't, and I'm going to pay this premium for this coverage.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm not going to buy a policy from you. I need to see every one of these policies. I'm going to read them all and see which one I want. And sure enough, the policies were all priced about the same, and 2 stuck out that had great coverage. No endorsements that were going to hurt me. Nothing that could adversely affect me if I had a claim.
Yeah.
But some of the others that look like great policies on the first few pages, you read through them, essentially no coverage for the house. God forbid if my house ever burns down or a hurricane ever hits. Oh, I would have come out hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket.
Yeah.
And you got to think, love agents to death, but they sell.
Their job
sell
is to
policies.
sell. Yeah.
Now,
Not explain.
older, more experienced agents who have been through hurricanes and fire outbreaks, and they've seen how policies are enforced. But where I come from, working for the insurance company for all these years, I used to be the one that had to enforce what the agent sold.
Yeah.
So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So for me, I can go through a policy, give me an hour to read through it, and I can hit all the high notes. Here's what's good, here's what's bad. A lot of agents just don't have that skill set.
The beauty of your description of your experience in insurance and in adjusting is you were able to answer 6 of my 9 questions just in that little brief description of what we went over. So that's fantastic. I don't have to answer. I don't have to ask too many more questions.
I still have a few more to give you.
Okay, well, we got time. I'm going to go into a little bit about public adjusting, see if I can pull out a little bit more. Yeah. What is the biggest misconception about working with a public adjuster?
I can tell you this. This is where the market has changed dramatically in the last few years. All the years that I was working as an independent adjuster, I would meet a public adjuster on a claim until there was a large dispute. And then someone would hire a public adjuster. I'd go out with the insurance company. I'd try to settle the dispute so it didn't have to end up in litigation. Conflict resolution. I'd go out on residential, very large commercial, and I would try to keep the insurance company out of litigation. Even when I started the firm, people would hire us when there was a problem. Hurricane Irma changed everything in Florida, and really it changed everything across the country. Now we're at a point where insurance companies come right out of the gate wanting to fight, not wanting to pay claims. Whereas before, homeowners would hire us when there was a problem. Now, because so many people on claims in the past have either been denied or end up in litigation for years, I would say 70% of our work now, people hire us the first day they're filing an insurance claim. It's almost like getting in an auto accident. You're not going to fight the other person's insurance company alone. You're going to hire an attorney right out of the gate. It's to the point now where people want representation on their claims right at the beginning. Yeah. Because they know it's going to be a problem. And I can tell you this, from Milton, Helene, Ida out in Louisiana, all the hurricanes the last few years, the people that got us on a claim, when they were submitting the claim, we got most of those settled in 90 days, maybe a little longer. Yeah. The people that have brought us in, I still have a bunch of Hurricane Ian claims. The claim I did deposition on yesterday, people didn't bring us in until 6-7 months in, and they said, I've had it with the insurance company. What people don't understand is when we get on a claim from the beginning, we can control the narrative. We know what to say, what not to say, all the things to do to keep the insurance claim flowing. When people try to handle it on their own, right? Everything you say is used against you when you call an insurance claim. And that's something I wanted to bring up from my own personal experience as a contractor. I've had to come into a home that had damage, and the client is basically paying for it out of pocket because they said the wrong thing. Yeah. And if they would have hired an adjuster or spoken to someone who had more information, they wouldn't have. What I didn't know is that insurance companies are recording your calls and looking for you to say the wrong thing, which basically cancels your policy or cancels your coverage. This is an example. This is a true story I've given to everybody. Hurricane Sally hit the Panhandle. I've got an elderly couple who have some adopted kids. They got a lot going on. And hurricane hits. They get us involved in the first few weeks. They got us involved early, but I didn't call on the claim, or nobody at my firm did. They called it on their own. And again, this goes to all the phone calls you say. Anything you say is used against you, not for you, with insurance companies, because it's all recorded. We get them to pay for the roof. They won't pay for the interior. $50,000 of interior damage. We get them to pay for the roof. And we're like, man, they just won't budge. Insurance company won't even respond to us. Unfortunately, the homeowner says, you know what, I'm going to get an attorney. And with us, with day adjusting, I think we settle about 89% of our claims without ever having to get an attorney involved. The highest number we've ever done. We've got a good reputation in the industry. We can get these things done with no need for an attorney. But this is one that had to get an attorney. They're really deep in litigation, trying to figure out why they won't budge on the interior. We get sent an audio clip from the insurance company's adjuster. And it's the little old lady on the phone calling in her claim. The desk adjuster says, all right, why are you calling your claim? Oh, we had a hurricane come through. Okay, well, what do you notice? Oh, I've got a lot of roof damage. What about on the inside? Oh, I've got a lot of water stains. Has the roof ever leaked before? I think we've had some in the past and some stains, but now I'm seeing these stains. And they just that little clip right there where the lady was trying to be honest, and her little leak was from an AC handler.
From a roof.
AC pan. Yeah. It wasn't even from a roof. But the fact that she mentioned there were water stains before, the insurance company said, we'll take it to trial. This roof's been leaking forever. Yeah. And the attorney recommended the homeowner, we drop the case. Wow. And they lost out on $50,000 because just something that simple. Calling the insurance company, trying to be honest and do the right thing is what they thought. So whatever you say is going to be used against you. So we tell people,
be very, very careful with that. Very careful.
Don't
with
answer
that.
a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I always tell the insurance company I want everything in writing. I'll call in and submit the claim. If I'm calling in and submitting your claim on your behalf, which we did this for a homeowner Monday or Tuesday, the insurance company, why are we just now getting the claim? Any questions you have, please put in writing and send to me. I'll be happy to answer them. Well, you're not answering any questions I have. I would love to answer these questions. I'm just busy right now. Can you please put them all in writing and send them to me?
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything on a recorded line.
Yeah.
We're going to be very careful with what we say because the insurance companies, they make money by keeping your premiums, not by giving them back.
That's right.
So you've got to be very careful with that.
Which is crazy to think, you're sold under this impression that I'm paying you for in this event. When it happens, I want to be paid. But yet that company is not paying when those events happen. And that's frustrating. It's frustrating as a society, but it is what it is. And so that's why we have adjusting firms like yours that help the people and help us navigate that.
It was extremely frustrating to me. The thing that's been ticking me off the last few days, I keep seeing on the news, there's an insurance crisis across California, across the whole country. There's an insurance crisis. Do this if you're sitting at home and you got an iPhone. Get onto your stocks app that's on every iPhone and just type in the word insurance. You'll probably have 25 publicly traded companies that'll come up and look at their 2024 numbers. You can just click, hit the button that says 1 year and look. Every insurance company that's publicly traded, your Allstates, your MetLifes, your Heritage, which is up 8%. Most of them are up anywhere from 20 to 80% in 1 year. Their revenue's off the chart. You got companies like ASI that I think went from like 5 or 6 billion to 10 billion in profit. You have Allstate, who made a record-breaking $20 billion in profit on a hurricane year. A year where Allstate had claims all over the country from hurricanes, a super active hail year. And what's even more frustrating is Allstate spent 70% less in marketing and advertising and TV commercials, but made almost double the revenue from the year before.
Which is crazy because you hear these insurance companies going out of business because of the hurricanes in Florida and pulling out and giving us homeowners, residents in Florida, less options, more schedules, more restrictions, more crap, and yet these companies are still seem to be profiting and doing just fine.
Oh, look at the holding company for, was it UPC? UPC is UPC, I want to say American, I forget which one, American Capital. No, it's not AmCap. Whichever one is their commercial lines of insurance. So UPC went under and went back to the state of Florida. But the holding company is up 100, 200% their stock because they dumped part of their claims in the state of Florida and then kept their more profitable commercial lines of insurance. Yeah. So anytime you hear, oh, another insurance company went insolvent. Okay, if I start a business and I have all my eggs in one basket, it's a big risk. You can make a lot of profit in Florida, but if something happens, you lose, you go bankrupt. Yeah. Even my company, we're not $1 billion company. We do several $1 million in revenue, but we're scattered between 15 to 17 states. Yeah. So things, you scatter your chips, you diversify. Yeah. Some of these insurance companies that the state has let come in only have policies in Florida. Yeah. Or maybe it's Florida and a little bit, but almost all of their policies are in Florida. So when a hurricane or something hits, it's like, oh, there's an insurance crisis. We let an insurance company in that said, hey, I want to open up an insurance company in Florida because they have the highest premiums along with California. But we're not going to go anywhere else. We're just going to sit here and collect our money.
And hope there's not a storm.
We're going to pay these massive bonuses to our boards of directors, and we'll hang on as long as we can. And when it all goes to hell, we just won't pay our claims and we'll give them back to the state. And that's what happens because all your publicly traded companies that are big national brands are doing very well. Then you have State Farm that says, in some states, well, we got to make a profit. You're the same size as Allstate. One of only two things can be true. Either A, you should go public because whoever's running State Farm is running it into the ground. If they're truly losing money and Allstate and them have the exact same coverage area, the publicly traded companies have the world's best CEOs and they make a profit, but the privately held just can't figure it out. Yeah. Or B is true. State Farm's making a lot of money, but because they're not public, they don't have to share it. Right. Like for me, I can say, guys, can somebody pick up my lunch today? I'm doing really bad. I could have a bunch of money in my account, but you don't know. Right. But if it was transparent and you could always see my bank account at all times, and I'm like, guys, I'm doing really bad, and you're like,
doesn't look like it.
You just made more money than you've ever made in your life. Why don't you cover lunch today? Yeah. It's like, it's great when you're a private company and you can say, oh, we're losing a lot of money. Really? I still see you guys running Super Bowl commercials. Every time there's a football timeout, I see a State Farm commercial. Yeah. And when all of your competition had record-breaking years in 2024, I'm sorry, but you're not the only one that didn't. But it's really easy to cry, we're losing money. Yeah. And the California thing to me is a complete joke. The state let them pull out. Let them take their policies, their fire policies. Well, that's a big risk for us. But you can still go to those. I was just in LA earlier this year. I was right there where the wildfires were. I was visiting some friends. I was out there in Malibu, driving right along the Pacific coast. I was in that area. Every strip mall, you know what you'll still see? A State Farm office.
Yeah.
Just like you'll see in Florida.
Yeah.
But you'll wonder, like, man, in Florida and California, they're not selling State Farm policies. Why do I see these offices? Auto, marine, life insurance.
Yeah.
All the stuff they make huge money on. They're most profitable lines.
Right.
California said, oh, you know what? You want to take all these homeowners policies? Go ahead. But here's what the state of Louisiana did years ago. State Farm threatened to pull out of Louisiana. Insurance commissioner said, all right, you want to pull out? Okay.
Take all your policies.
Take your auto.
Yep.
Take your marine, take your motorcycle, take your life insurance, put it up your ass and get out.
Yeah.
State Farm said, whoa. I think we can work this out.
We'll figure it out.
And they stay.
Yeah.
Florida doesn't do that because the politicians are bought and sold, Republicans and Democrats. California, the same way.
Yeah.
State Farm threatens to pull out everything. Allstate did the same thing in California. Keep in mind, just made $20 billion in profit.
Yeah.
The stock's up 20% for the year. Give a lot of money back to the shareholders. But both of those companies, we're really struggling. There's an insurance crisis.
Right.
No, you want to sell your gravy stuff. Because across the country, I have a lot of friends that are agents. Most insurance companies break about even on homeowners policies. Sometimes they lose a little bit of money, but they make all of their profit from the bundle. It's why every TV commercial, it's like, oh, bundle with State Farm, bundle with Progressive.
That's right.
Because they make all their money that way. Well, it's a great business model when you can get into a state like California or Florida and say, our one that breaks even, we're going to pull it. But we're going to pay enough lobbyist dollars where you'll let us keep all the profitable stuff so we can keep getting record revenue.
Yeah.
It's complete BS. And I get California is compared to Florida, is a mismanaged just cluster.
State in general.
Yeah, they didn't do anything for fire prevention. They didn't do the right things to fill the reservoirs. They haven't redirected the water because they're worried about some little anchovy little
or
fish.
some fish. Something like that.
There's a lot of stuff wrong with California.
Yeah.
But anytime the politicians could
Shout
have
out
told
to
State
Gavin
Farm,
Newsom.
yeah, shout out Governor. At any point,
Yeah.
the state of California could have said, okay, in these different districts that you want to pull policies, in those same districts you're going to pull policies, we're going to pull your license to be able to sell health insurance, auto, marine,
Everything,
motorcycle, RV. And you know what State Farm would have said?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Let's negotiate. We'll keep them if you let us keep this.
Yeah.
But instead, they let them just pull whatever they want.
Yeah.
And these states don't hold them accountable and say, all right, if you're going to pull it all in those areas.
Yeah.
Because that would make them stay. And that's the frustrating part is this insurance crisis. But every insurance company that's publicly traded across the country, every single one of them, look at Chubb, Assurant, all of them, record-breaking, 20% in a year for a stock.
Yeah.
Some of them as high as 80%. Give me a freaking break.
Those are not financial, what do you say? Recommendations.
Yeah.
I'm not giving financial advice. It's not publicly traded financial advice.
Yeah.
I had to put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't even care. At this point, companies like ours have a target on our back.
I was going to say, actually, what I was thinking while you were sharing was that you definitely could have a target on your back speaking that way. Do you ever worry about that? You're out here fighting for the people. That's your job. You're going to fight for the people. You're going to face the challenges in the music that these other bigger conglomerates are going to push back on, and you're going to continue to do what's right. And that's very admirable of you.
Oh yeah, I butt heads with politicians all the time. And I tend to vote Republican. I don't hide that.
Yep.
But there's a lot of Republicans in the state of Florida who've turned their back on policyholders. And I'll call them all by name. I do all the time.
Yeah.
I welcome all of them to public debates. Put me up on a stage with a few hundred people, and I'll grill you over the things that I've seen, and you can tell me why you're right. I'm open to it anytime, any place.
There it is, folks. There it is, folks.
But guess what?
The gloves are going on.
No politician wants to be up there, and I just point blank ask them, how much money has came to your campaign from insurance dollars, insurance companies? Nobody wants to answer that.
Of course you don't.
Because that's always the first question. It's like, all right, if you have taken no money from, insurance companies, all right, now we can start having a conversation. And I'll point out, what I see with policyholders. But the one thing that is changing in the country, whether it's health insurance or homeowners insurance, you're starting to see a big shift. The unfortunate situation in New York where the CEO of the health insurance company got shot.
Yeah.
It was a little wild to see the outpour of people not really condemning the young kid. I mean, it was a horrible thing that happened.
Yeah.
But people are so frustrated with health insurance in this country.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing the same thing, whether it was the hurricanes or whether it's this State Farm, Allstate stuff going on. People are realizing you're not in good hands. It's not a good neighbor. People are realizing these companies are out for profit. And rather than protecting the things that these people want them to protect, which is their health and their property, they're trying to find ways, algorithms, ways to get out of not doing these things.
Right.
So I think it's putting a lot of pressure on politicians now. These politicians who have been taking,
I think my
these
next
handouts.
guest needs to be an insurance agent.
Oh, and there's some great agents out there.
No, I know there are, but I feel like
yeah.
I'm going to have to get an insurance agent in here to discuss, their perspective on this and what they're doing, because their, livelihood is based on selling these things, and how that's going to affect, the future.
And I'll say this, whether it's Naples or anywhere else in the state of Florida, there's good agents and bad agents. There's agents that want to sell.
And that's people in general. That's
And
contractors, that's adjusters, that's bankers. That doesn't change no matter the industry.
Yeah.
There's going to be good and bad, but we definitely need to sort out, for the people.
Yeah.
What really is needed to protect your home, your health, your auto, these kind of things.
I'll give some politicians some credit in the state of Florida, getting rid of the AOB, the assignment of benefits, where a contractor could basically take over your claim,
Yeah.
and they would instantly sue the insurance company. And rather than trying to get a reasonable amount for the damages you have, they try to get some crazy high amount, and they'd sue that needed to be taken away. That was a big step. And I applaud the Republicans, the Democrats that came together and pulled that.
That's right.
But just like in anything in politics, the pendulum swings one side wildly to the other. There's very rarely a moderate side. And unfortunately, the power has swung to the insurance companies. The big thing in Florida now, your own claim.
Well, they have the money, so that helps.
They have the money. They have the lobbyist dollars. But now they've taken away your ability to recover attorney's fees, God forbid, if you had to hire an attorney. So your claim or anybody else's claim, the insurance company looks at your property, and we'll just use an imaginary person. They look at your property, it caught on fire. Every bid you have from a contractor is $200K. Your insurance company says, we're going to give you $15,000. Well, I know that's not right. That's bad faith. You shouldn't be doing that. Insurance company, sue us. And then they end up paying you the $200K. But 40% of that $200K now goes to your attorney.
Right.
So the insurance company, they really have no reason to actually pay your claim on time and do anything. So everything's becoming a big fight in the state of Florida, because what's the penalty if they don't? It's like me speeding down the interstate and the cop pulls me over. You can't give me a ticket. You can say, hey, you're doing bad. I'm just going to speed again. Why would I care? And then I know people like Jimmy Petronas want to point and say, we fined Heritage $1 million. Wow, $1 million. Look at how many billion, their stock went up 83% this year. Almost double. With the amount of billions of dollars them and the Allstates made. People don't realize how much $1 billion is. You could fill up, with the amount of money Allstate made, $20 billion. Pick your favorite sports team. In $100 bills, that basically fills the arena all the way up to the nosebleed section in cash. $1 million you can fit in a suitcase. So anybody to say, we find this insurance company $1 million. Imagine tossing a suitcase into
a sports arena. Yeah.
That's what you find them.
The visual on that is phenomenal, by the way.
Is nothing. You find them nothing.
Yeah.
There's no real penalty for them, because the executives that make these decisions, when's the last time, pick a banker, even from the financial collapse. These people that run these companies, they don't go to prison. They don't really do jail time.
Yeah.
So they make these guidelines. They do what they want with no penalty, and they're raking in record profits off the backs of homeowners. It pisses me off. I can go on and on about it. I have to
Your
bite
passion
my tongue.
exudes, what you're doing, and that's phenomenal. It's phenomenal to see someone that is that passionate about what they do and what they believe in, and that's an amazing thing. So when hiring day adjusting, that's what you're going to get. And for me, that's the most important part of this podcast, for people to get to see what you're really getting. When I bring in people who are in an industry, who are selling a product or a service, it is nice to see someone that is that passionate about it. And where could our viewers find Day Adjusting if they wanted to find you and hire you and had a claim or wanted to ask questions about insurance, or where will we find you?
Just Google Day Adjusting. We do a ton of stuff with local media. Like, we've been featured in Bloomberg and The Economist, big national magazines. You'll find our news clips everywhere, because we do a lot of stuff, whether it's NBC, Fox, CBS, Wink. So we get a lot of content out there, because a lot of people have me come on as an expert because I'm passionate about this.
That's right.
Just Google us. You'll find us. We're in a lot of different states all across North America. Our main office, our main hub is in Naples, Florida. So we do a ton of work here in Florida. But a lot of our clientele that have large commercial properties here in Florida, to give you an example, we got a call when Helene came through in South Georgia. Hey, Blake, you helped me with a couple big strip malls here in South Florida. By the way, I own a lot of strip malls in Valdosta, Georgia. How soon can you get out there?
Yeah.
So a lot of our clientele, some of our Clients have, they own commercial storage, climate controlled storage all across the country. And anytime they have a hailstorm or a fire outbreak, they call us. Like, how soon can you get to Utah? How soon can you get to Colorado? And I have a whole team. I do show up personally to some of these and shake hands. But I got a team of adjusters that all come from the insurance background.
Yeah.
It's funny. I own the company, at 36, and I'm one of the youngest people at the company.
Yeah.
Everybody's older than me and has more experience.
Well, that's what they say. Hire people that are as good or better than you, and you always have a successful company. I do the same thing. I'm definitely probably the least experienced of everybody that works for me. But that's what makes a good company, finding the right people, the better people, the smarter people that can do it. And guys like you and I are the quarterbacks. We're good at quarterbacking. We're good at moving things and talking to people and making things happen. And that's where our strong suit is,
Yeah, it's about, every employee you hire or bring on is going to have certain strengths. And the key of being a good businessman is figuring out what those strengths are and pairing those people. Like, I have some guys that are great at fire. I have some guys that are great at flood.
Right.
I have some guys that are great at pipe burst claims or whether it's hail. I have some guys here in Florida that have never really ran hail claims. So I would never send them to the Midwest or Colorado for a big hail claim. Like, I have guys that specialize in different things. And the key is, and everybody, you get a little cocky. You want to say, I'm good at everything. Well, from a boss, you have to look and say,
probably not.
Things you're not great at, but there's some things you're amazing at. Like, I have some people who are the best communicators. They can be the most average adjuster, but the clientele love them so much because of their great communication. Whereas I have some guys that are probably the smartest, most intelligent. They know everything about insurance. They're not great people. Yeah. So I'm better pairing them with businessmen. They're like, give me an update once every few months. Call me when it's settled. Yeah. Whereas some homeowners, they want to hold it every week. What's going on? What's going on? And you got to pair the right personalities. But we've got a great team. I'm extremely blessed to have so many skilled guys that I have. I'm very particular with who we bring in. So very lucky.
Yeah. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your passion about insurance, adjusting claims, and all of the politics and everything that goes along with that. But also just glad that you were able to come on Built by Becker. We're so thankful. Day Adjusting, Blake Day, thank you so very, very much for coming on. We appreciate it and look forward to this one coming out. Have a good one.
It was a lot of fun.
All right.